Hello everyone. Today we'll start our discussion with Module 4. In this, there are two parts. Part 1 discuss about uplink transport channel processing. Part 2 is related to physical layer procedures and scheduling. Let us go through the part 1 topics. The topics which we are going to discuss are uplink channel transport processing overview, uplink shared channels, uplink control information, uplink reference signals, random access channels, and hybrid automatic repeat request on uplink. Coming to uplink channel transport processing, let us quickly revise about the difference between uplink and downlink. As you know, the excuse me, the major factor for transmitter design in the uplink or downlink is low complexity and high power efficiency. However, in downlink, the E node B can have low power efficiency and high complexity. The user equipment cannot withstand with this rule. Here, low complexity and high power efficiency are the major factors for the transmitter design in the uplink, that is, in the user equipment. To achieve above requirement, LTE uplink is based on SCFDMA modulation technique, as you modulation technique and multiple access. Multiple access in your downlink was OFDMA, where the peak to average power ratio was very high in OFDMA. In SCFDMA, it is very low, and hence it considered for uplink LTE. Here, SCFDMA based uplink, each user equipment can only be allocated contiguous resource blocks. As you have seen in the chapter 3, in downlink, contiguous or non-contiguous physical resource block allocation was supported. But here we are having only contiguous resource allocation. That means continuously 180 kilohertz will be allocated for different users with 15 kilohertz is the carrier subcarrier frequency. Likewise, the complete bandwidth might be allocated for a particular user in a continuous frequency allocation manner. The uplink only supports a limited number of multiple input multiple output modes compared to the downlink, and there are few similarities between downlink and uplink transport channel processing. They are the same channel coding processing is applied in both downlink and uplink shared channels as compared to the uh, differences. Here, the time frequency structure of the uplink resource blocks is similar to that of downlink. As we have studied in resource blocks frame structures, they are same in both the downlink and uplink. Here is the uplink transport channel processing overview, where you can see channel coding processing is one part, modulation processing is another part. Channel coding processing involves CRC addition, code block segmentation, channel coding, rate matching, and code block concatenation. Whereas modulation processing has scrambling, modulation mapper, DFT based precoding, resource mapping, SCFDMA signal generation. Let us go uh, through these two major steps. First one is channel coding processing. The channel coding processing in the uplink includes, as I have told already, CRC addition and code block segmentation, channel coding and rate matching, and code block concatenation. The use of channel coding scheme and coding rate for the uplink shared channel and control information is specified in tables 8.1 and 8.2. So the first table specifies the use of channel coding scheme and coding rate for uplink transport channels. Transport channel used is uplink, shared channel. Coding scheme used is turbo coding. Coding rate is 1 by 3. Similarly, usage of channel coding scheme and coding rate for uplink control information is given here. Control information is UCI. Coding schemes are block coding with coding rate variable. That is, variable coding rate is used with block coding. Tail baiting convolutional coding is used with coding rate of 1 by 3. The turbo encoder used for uplink shared channels. Also, the channel coding scheme depends on type of control information and physical channel that carries the control information. This control information in the uplink can be mapped either to the physical uplink shared channel PUSCH or the physical uplink control channel PUCCH. So this is about how channel coding processing happens. These things already we have seen in the uh, module 3 as well, when it was about the downlink discussion. Now the second part in this is modulation processing. Modulation processing in the uplink includes scrambling and modulation mapping. Here you need to remember, scrambling means uh, it is like a pre-coding where the electrical signal representation of the bit stream is coded. That is, you have studied line codes. In that, continuous ones or continuous zeros will be separated somehow by addition of some uh, references, like change in the state, depending on whether there are continuously 4 zeros are there, 6 zeros are there, 8 zeros are there, and and it makes them to have desirable spectrum properties. Also, in uplink, a user equipment specific scrambling is applied in order to randomize the interface. Since spatial multiplexing is not supported in the uplink, there is no layer mapping or MIMO pre-coding in the modulation processing step of this uplink processing. The main difference from the downlink uh, in the it is the generation of SCFDMA baseband signal illustrated in figure 8.2. This particular generation of SCFDMA baseband signals we have already seen in the module 2 itself, but it is given over here as part of modulation processing. Just you can go through the same explanation. Let us have some recap on that. Here, the first DFT based uh, pre-coding is applied to the block of complex valued modulation symbols. So until here it is time domain. When DFT based pre-coding is applied, we are going to get a frequency domain signal, and in IFFT resource mapping takes place. After that resource mapping, it is given the output signal is time domain now, and this time domain signal is now added with cyclic prefix, and finally it is converted into a serial sequence of data. Earlier it was parallel signal, now it is converted to the serial sequence, and it can be now transmitted onto the channel. Here, the DFT size is constrained to the trade-off between complexity of the implementation, flexibility on the assigned bandwidth, and number of resource block assigned to the user equipment. So this DFT size is very important, and it is chosen based on these trade-offs. And also, the SCFDMA L symbol of any SCFDMA is given by this equation. That's all about our modulation processing. The next topic we have is uplink shared channels. The description of the transport channel processing for uplink shared channels is as below, where the uplink shared channel is the only transport channel that carries traffic data, and the uplink shared channels processing includes channel encoding and demodulation, frequency hopping, and multiple or multi-antenna transmission. Here you can see logical channels associated with this uplink shared channel, shared transport channel is CC, that is CH, which is a common control channel, and DCCH, which is excuse, downlink control channel, and DTCH, which is dedicated traffic channel. These logical channels are mapped into a single transport channel, which is uplink shared channel. And this uplink shared channel of transport layer is mapped to the physical channel, which is physical uplink shared channel PUSCH. Sorry, PUSCH. And the uplink shared channel processing includes channel encoding and modulation, frequency hopping, and multiple antenna or multi-antenna transmission. Let us see first channel encoding and modulation for uplink shared channel. Here, the channel coding scheme of 1 by 3 turbo encoder is used to encode the transport block. Effective code rates other than 1 by 3 are achieved by either puncturing or repetition of the encoded bits, and it depends on the transport block size, the modulation scheme, and the assigned radio resource. The encoded symbols are scrambled prior to modulation. As I have already discussed about scrambling, scrambling is a process where we are going to change the electrical nature of the signal so as to have desired uh, power spectrum density properties, that is autocorrelation property or the DC offset levels. Okay, next is user equipment specific scrambling is applied in the uplink. It depends on the user equipment which kind of scrambling need to be applied. Coming to the modulation for uplink shared channel, we can use QPSK 16 and 64 modulation schemes. The QPSK and 16 modulation schemes are mandatory, while 64 modulation is optional and it depends on the user equipment capability. The next topic in this is frequency hopping. LTE supports frequency hopping on physical uplink shared channel, which provides additional frequency diversity in the uplink. As you know, frequency hopping means in a uh, transmitted signal, we are not going to use a single frequency, we are going to use multiple frequencies, and these multiple frequencies will be changing continuously with the time. As you can see over here, the frequency is changing as the time proceeds. So the frequency hopping techniques can be utilized in LTE. And frequency hopping can also provide interference averaging when the system is not 100% loaded. In LTE, both intra-subframe and inter-subframe frequency hopping are supported, as illustrated in figure 8.4. Here you can see the marked boxes are physical resource blocks allocated to a particular user equipment. Here in intra subframe frequency hopping, you can see subframe length is this much. In this, there are multiple frequency hop. This is one frequency hop. This is another. So there are two frequency changes in a single subframe. That's why it is called as intra subframe frequency hopping. The next one is inter subframe frequency hopping. Here you can see in subframe there is no change in the frequency. The resource blocks allocated are in the same frequency, while as in the next subframe you can see there is a frequency hopping taking place. Next, again in the next subframe frequency hopping is taking place, and thereby we can see there is a more diversity gain in intra subframe frequency hopping as compared to inter subframe frequency hopping. This is because only a single HARQ feedback can be utilized over here, while as multiple HARQ feedbacks are required in inter subframe frequency hopping. The same has been explained in this slide. Okay. Now there is a FH field in the physical downlink control channel with DCI format 0. When it is set to 0, no frequency hopping is going to take place. When it is set to 1, frequency hopping takes place, and when FH is 1, there are two frequency hopping types we can have. The first one is type 1, where it uses an explicit offset in the second slot determined by parameters in DCI format 0. In type 2, the set of physical resource blocks to be used for the transmission is given by the scheduling grant together with a prior defined hopping pattern. The prior defined hopping pattern is absent in the type 1. And after setting whether no hopping or frequency hopping, the user equipment first determines the allocated resource blocks, and then the data is mapped onto these resources. The next process we have is multi-antenna transmission. LTE only supports a limited number of multi-antenna transmission schemes as compared to the downlink. In uplink, there are limited multi-antenna transmission schemes supported as compared to the downlink due to reduce in equipment complexity and cost. And it has two sections. One is transmit antenna selection, where user equipment has two or more transmit antennas. The transmit antenna selection can be applied, which is able to provide spatial diversity gain, and it can be operated in three modes. The three modes are no antenna selection, closed loop antenna selection, and open loop antenna selection. In no antenna selection, uh, the antenna selection is disabled or not supported by the user equipment. The user equipment shall transmit from antenna port 0. In the closed loop antenna selection, this mode is enabled by higher layers. The user equipment shall perform transmit antenna selection in response to commands received via DCI format 0 from the E node B, and the DCI format 0 is scrambled with the antenna selection mask, which enables the user equipment to determine which antenna port to select. Here it is based on the feedback mechanism, which is detected by DCI format 0 from the base station. Here in the open loop antenna selection, this mode is enabled by higher layers again, but the transmitter antenna to be selected by the user equipment is not specified, as in the case of closed loop antenna selection. And the user equipment can determine the optimum antenna based on the HARQ, acknowledged or not acknowledged feedbacks, and the user equipment can transmit from antenna 0 for some time instance, and then it can switch back to antenna 1 for next time instant. And this can be periodically going on depending on which antenna should be chosen based on HARQ acknowledgement or not acknowledgement status. Okay, this is about multi antenna transmission. Part 1 is transmit antenna selection. Second part is multi user MIMO. Here it is also referred to as virtual MIMO transmission. In multi-user MIMO, what happens is multiple users, or for example, two user equipments can transmit simultaneously on the same radio resource, forming a virtual MIMO channel. And the eNode B separates the data streams for each user equipment, for example, using multi-user detection. This transmission mode provides a spatial multiplexing gain to increase the uplink spectrum efficiency even with single antenna user equipments. CQI calculation and the scheduling process will change due to the interaction between data streams for different user equipments. As the eNode B can estimate the channel information from the uplink reference signal, it is capable of performing channel quality indication calculation and scheduling without further feedback from the user equipments, which makes it easier to implement multiple user, multiple input, multiple output in the uplink than in the downlink. So multi-user memo can be implemented in a better way or easier way in uplink than in the downlink, because the eNode B can estimate the channel information based on the uplink reference signal, and it is capable of performing the channel quality indicator calculation and scheduling without further feedback from the user equipments. And this channel quality indicator calculation and scheduling process will be changed due to interaction between data streams for different user equipments. And also this multiple user MIMO provides a spectrum efficiency as well as spatial multiplexing gain. This is about our uplink shared channels. In the next lecture, we will discuss uplink control information or UCI. Okay, thanks for watching. Have a good day.